What's the haps? I'm John, aka Meroka, and welcome to Spiel. We set forth this week into the Silver Bishop Gate, which will be fiery and kind of starts out in a compound. So it's a poor start to the week. That did get me killed last week. Well, not starting there, but hanging around in compounds got me killed. Was it compounds? I feel like it would have been a compound. I don't remember. I've said it many times before. I kind of autopilot through a lot of this. I'm not really focusing too closely on what I did. I just remember the significance of my dying, and I can't imagine it. It was Gorgos. Gorgos got me. That's what they was. May have been Gorgos and other things. They could have been teaming up with Scarabs to foil my nefarious plans. Evil things. Evil! I also had no health. That was right. Yes. Health was my downfall. Let's try to have some this week. There's one there. Anyway, we shall begin things as is tradition with the Spiral Knights news. Yeah! The Spiral Knights news is that I called it. You know, I said, oh hey, they've done a coloured crystal thing. Do you think they're going to go and do all the colours and name them all after gemstones? And there's bound to be a blue one, which is sapphire. Well, yeah, there's a blue one, which is sapphire. So now you can get blue armour, which is exactly like the red armour that they had not so long ago. But this one is sapphire. Told you there'd be a sapphire. I told you. Let's have a look at it. Let us have a look at the purchase. Clockworks blues. It looks like that. There are, I guess, some teardroppy looking things that sort of hover around that I guess are slightly new. But other than that, it's very blue. And yeah, it's very similar to the red thing. To be fair, the red thing may have had those as well. I haven't been paying too closely to the attention, paying too much attention to the whole process because there's kind of too many cosmetics to really keep track of these days. So yes, you can buy 14 sapphire prize boxes for $50, or 5 for 20, or 1 for whatever they're selling that for, 5. Yes, there you go. Cool. Those are things you can buy if you want to buy them. Have fun if you want to buy them. Good luck as well. You're basically gambling. So yeah. Not much else to report in the way of things. There never really is. Those are the most we ever really see in the game these days. Such is life. Ow, I'm on fire. I probably should have given a little bit more thought to my loadouts as far as fire resistance goes. But yeah. Ooh, one other thing to note that is in the game now. They have something has been added to the game, which is our good friend Tulkas the Valiant. Tulkas the Valiant has been added to the game. He's now playable. Add him as a friend. I want everybody to add Tulkas the Valiant as a friend, just to surprise him next time he logs in. Just go, all one word, Tulkas the Valiant, add him. Because I know him on Steam, it kind of added him automatically, and I don't know how it did that. I'm not sure how that worked. My friends list was full, guys. And then it was like, hey, we've added Tulkas the Valiant to your friends list. Here you go, he's a friend now. And I'm like, but I was at 250. I'm still at 250. I haven't got 251 out of 250 friends. I've got 250 friends. I think the game must have like unfriended somebody for me or something. I don't know how that worked. What the heck? It's like I'm at the cap, and here we automatically added one more for you. Eh? What? How? Game? What did you do? Something was not right there. Something doesn't add up. The numbers don't add up. So yeah. I apologize if I unadded you recently. Against my own volition. I didn't choose to do so. I'm sorry. I won't do it again unless someone else I know on Steam starts playing the game. That was in the name of maybe if we ever do the hashtag Team Suicide show again, we will do some. We'll do some Blast Network probably, because Blast Network was entertaining and it would be more entertaining with other people. So, and also when we did the hashtag Team Suicide show, everybody that came into the chat was like, "So are you gonna play Spiral Knights?" Which one we were like, no, Tulkas doesn't play Spiral Knights. To be fair, I don't play Spiral Knights. I know I'm playing Spiral Knights now, but this is literally all I will play of this game all week. Tulkas don't play Spiral Knights, I don't play Spiral Knights. We were there to just play Minecraft and Hearthstone when we did that, really. If that is to become a regular feature, Spiral Knights may be on the repertoire of things that are available. So yeah, everybody go add Tulkas the Valiant, and then, because I keep telling everybody he's going to make Spiral Knights content just to wind him up, yeah, go subscribe to him and demand Spiral Knights content from him, and maybe he will make some Spiral Knights videos for you. because you ain't getting many out of me. I'm intentionally antagonizing my audience at this stage, I feel. Sorry, guys. I feel like I had better news, but it's gone. Oh, better news! Better news is that none of y'all asked me many questions. Actually, I got one question, which is interesting, but I didn't get many questions, so I'm going to go back to bribing you. Here's some bribes. If you would like to have your name read out on next week's show, you will ask me a question in the comments that is reasonably interesting. And the most interesting question that anybody asks me between now and my recording next week's Spiral Spiel, which will be Tuesday evening, most likely, all things considered. Actually, oh no, I got a lot going on next week. Might be Sunday actually. It might be Sunday when I have to record Spiral Spiel next week. So yeah, get your questions in early this week. If you ask me a question between now and Sunday, I'm not going to specify a time because God knows when I will record it, but some vague, nondescript time on Sunday, such that I have time to read the question. The best question will win a copy of Reus, however you pronounce it, whatever it is. It is from the same guys who did the game that I absolutely adored from last week, which is to say Renowned Explorers. If you have not seen my video of that, you should go check that out because that is a fantastic game. I'm loving that one. I'm liking that quite a lot at the minute. And Reus is the first game from them. Renowned Explorers is their second title. Reus was their first one. It was also a very good title. Kind of a they kind of got in on the whole return to the God game genre when people were sort of like, hey, nobody's done a God game in a while, so let's do some God games. I think they were one of the first to actually have a recent stab at that genre in quite a while. It's got a very different twist on it. If you're expecting like Populous or Black and White or something, it's not that, but it's a good game. And I've got a spare Humble bundle key that's been sat on my notepad of destiny since forever, and it needs to go to somebody, so it might as well be somebody who is contributing useful and exciting and wonderful things to my channel. So if you would like to be a person who contributes useful and wonderful and exciting things to my channel, you can ask me an interesting question. Usual caveat applies as always. I do not particularly consider questions that relate to Spiral Knights in any significant way to be useful or interesting questions. I will answer them. If you ask me Spiral Knights questions, I will probably answer them, just because I generally do. But you won't win any prizes for a question like that. Go back, watch this season of Spiral Spiel, see what I've awarded prizes for in the past, and build from those. Use those as your inspiration, your jumping off point, your starting place into the world of education through Wikipedia. You can research topics and then ask me about them. So yeah. Speaking of researching things in the world of science and asking me about them, Alivai says, how do you feel about Hubble discovering that our nearest quasar is powered by a double black hole? I did not know that Hubble had discovered that our nearest quasar was powered by a double black hole. I had missed that news. I feel like some backstory is going to have to be, or at least exposition and information and whatnot is going to need to be necessary for some of the audience. I think going on a limb and saying, hey everybody, you all know what a quasar is, right, is probably asking a bit much. It's not sort of common knowledge. It's not sort of the average household kind of thing that people tend to know about. It's astrophysics. It's things you don't get taught about in school. At least not when I was at school. And yeah, most people probably wouldn't know what a quasar was. I would, if I had to hazard a guess. So Quasar H, to be honest, I had to do a bit of research on this myself because, quite frankly, when I was at school, they didn't particularly know what a quasar was either. I think that's only kind of come to light in more recent times. A quasar is one of those silly physicsy acronyms, which in this instance stands for a quasi-stellar radio source, which means that when they first found it, they thought, hey, this looks like, kind of like a star, but not entirely like a star. I was like, hey, this is a big, bright, glowy thing in the sky. It's got all the hallmarks of being a star, or a lot of the hallmarks of being a star, but when you actually analyze the frequencies of light that it emits, it's like, oh, this is not the same as a star, and it is quasi-stellar. And it was a radio source. The ones that they could see emitted a lot of radio wavelengths, So yeah, it's a radio source. It's a quasi-stellar radio source. They really didn't know much about it. This is back in, I guess, the early to mid 60s was kind of when they first kind of were. I think early to mid 60s. Don't quote me on that one, but I think that was when they sort of discovered and first noted and discussed and researched. And yeah, they were like, yeah, we found these things. We've got this phrase which describes them, but we really don't know much about what they are. And I think through to according to Wikipedia, through to at least the 80s, it was fairly well debated and not really well understood. I did not do any research of this in the 80s, because I was busy being born and being up to the age of, and including 3 years old in the 80s. So that's not when I was into astrophysics, I've got to be honest. I got into that a little after the age of 3, try a decade or so later, maybe. So, yeah, I guess it would have been like 90s and through to the 2000s when I kind of, my interest in astrophysics came to fruition. And during my teens, I did go to like an astronomical society where there was lots of lectures by various guest speakers, and it was all fascinating and interesting stuff. And, oh, is this my least favourite format of, it is, isn't it? Yes. I don't like this. This is by far my least favourite compound. So yeah, I went to a lot of lectures and I had a bunch of textbooks and things. Maybe some of them were a little out of date or something, but I know quite a lot of them were still like, yes, nobody really knows what a quasar is. And, well, Wikipedia says not otherwise, but I don't know. Growing up, I never knew what a quasar was, because I was told that all the people whose job it was to research these things didn't know what a quasar was either. And I'm reasonably sure somebody asked me about this some point within the last 2 years, and I had to look up quasars then, and Wikipedia still was kind of very vague on it. We're like, yeah, we're not really sure. So whether there's been some massive breakthrough in the last 2 years that I've totally missed, and everybody all of a sudden is like, oh yeah, we know what quasars are. Yeah, you know quasars. You know the quasars, right? And I like missed all of this. That could have happened. That seems plausible. Seems like the kind of thing I'd do, right? Yeah. Maybe. If there's been a breakthrough, now they kind of know what it is. Basically, it is basically just it's not even an object particularly. It's just sort of the area around a supermassive black hole at the center of a galaxy. It is so powerful and so massive and draws in so much material that it creates a fairly large area around it, which glows incredibly brightly and emits quite a lot of energy. In a great many instances, this is radio energy, hence quasar. You know, the radio source and all that. And yeah, the name is not terribly accurate anymore, I suppose. That the original quasar name that they gave it, well, they found quite a lot of them that exist that don't emit radio sources. I keep saying emit radio sources, or emit radio waves, I suppose, is what they are. They are waves, yes. They don't emit radio waves, so they're not really a radio. A lot of them aren't radio sources. And what I'll say is, like, the more they know about them, the less stellar they seem. It's just kind of the area around a black hole. I suppose a black hole was originally a star, so maybe in that regard you could call it stellar, but broadly speaking, quasi-stellar doesn't kind of seem to fit the bill anymore, and radio source, well, a lot of them aren't that either. So it's all kind of wrong, but it's one of those things. It's got a catchy name. It's certainly one of those words that certainly, I think, fires up science fiction writers. I know Red Dwarf made a lot of references to quasars over the years. They're like, oh yes, we're going into this quasar. Like, nobody knows what a quasar is. Certainly not when Red Dwarf was being made, they didn't know what a quasar was. It was one of those things that it's great for science fiction because it's like, oh, it's this wibbly wobbly timey wimey space thing, but nobody really knows what it is. So that sort of thing, it's got a catchy name and nobody knows what it is. That's great for science fiction writers. They love that kind of thing. So that's probably why, if anybody's ever heard of a quasar, that's probably why you've heard of it. It's been science fiction writers making up stuff about it because they didn't know what it was. And because science didn't know what it was, they were fully at liberty to make up stuff about it. It's like, well, is someone going to prove them wrong? I don't think so. You could now, but at the time, maybe not. So yeah, we now know a bit more about these things. They are the centers of galaxies, or frequently are. Obviously, black holes kind of have a lifespan, and these things consume so much matter in order to emit the amount of radiation they do. They are many times brighter than like galaxies themselves in a lot of instances. So yeah, they consume a lot of matter in exchange for emitting quite a lot of energy as well, light that can be detected, which is how we know that they're there. Or at least, you know, electromagnetic radiation, if maybe not visible light. There may be some visible light in there, but obviously a lot of it's like radio and stuff. But either way, we know it's there, and that's all that's important, really. That's all we really need to know. I'm going to stab him just because I can, because this room's gone better than expected. This room went way better. Oh, great, I'm on fire. This room has gone worse than expected. Oh, I'm out. I'm out. Right. Coins and down. Coins and down, I think. Where was I? Yeah, a lot of them will sort of consume their energy. The one in question that we're talking about, Hubble has had a look at a quasar by the name of Markarian 231, which frequently abbreviated to MRK 231 in a lot of science stuff, articles and things, and press releases and whatnot. So MRK 231, or Markarian 231, that one will... It will cease to be a quasar in, scientists say, within 100,000 years or so, which in astronomical terms is really not a long time. Obviously in human terms, that's a very long time, but you know, when you're talking about like how long humans have been on this planet, it's like that's even shorter than that. That does put that into perspective. Yeah, it's not going to be around that long in sort of astrophysicsy terms. Where are we? We are in a... I don't even need to check the gate map. I know that music. I know that music! That's gremlin music. That is... Where is it? Can't find it now. Oh, it's Deconstructor is my gremlin one, isn't it? Yeah. There we go. There's my Deconstructor music. This is a deconstruction zone. Yeah. It's such a very distinctive and obvious music that you know when you're going into a deconstruction zone. And such we are. Hoorays! Hoorays for the powers of music. I will never use the powers of music for good, ever again. In my life, I am completely tone deaf. But there we go! So yeah, the discovery is that Markarian 231 is not merely a supermassive black hole at the center of a galaxy, it is in fact a double black hole. And it's taken me a long time to get to this question, hasn't it? And Alivi says, how do I feel about it? Which is one of those really weird questions. I've been asked how do I feel about a bunch of things over the years, and it's... I don't know, am I supposed to have strong feelings about things? I feel slightly enlightened by the news, mildly intrigued. There's a great bit in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy where there's like I think it was like a huge robot comes from space and lands on Earth, and all the journalists come out and they're trying to interview the robot. Every journalist wants to be the first to interview the robot or whatever. It may be an alien or a robot, I forget. I have to read that book again. It's been a very long time since I've read that. It's been far too long since I've read that, frankly. Yeah, and all the journalists are like going to ask it interesting questions, and they're like trying to speak to the robot. And most of what they have to ask is, how do you feel about being from space? And quite frankly, it doesn't even dignify a response, because it was like, what sort of stupid question is this? I think it's when Trisha McMillan actually finally gets to interview it that he actually does anything, I think, because she's the first one who doesn't ask it a stupid, inane question. I'm not saying these are stupid, inane questions that I'm being asked. I think it's an interesting topic, but I think just sort of, how do you feel about thing that isn't going to engender any particularly noteworthy feelings is kind of just a weird one. Or to ask something, it's like, how do you feel about being from space? It's that same kind of question. It's like, I'm from space. Am I supposed to have feelings about being from space? It's, how do you feel about being from Britain? How do you feel about being from the United States? I suppose patriotic might be what some people might say about that, but, eh. It's just an arbitrary line we drew in the sand. Who really cares about that? I don't care about that. Yeah, let's grab a key. Let's grab a key. That's going to be hidden under one of these. Yeah. Got it. Got it. And I'm going to see if I can grab a crystal as well. So, I think this is an interesting thing. I don't know if it has any significant implications for the future of science, and I don't know. You'd have to ask somebody who actually studied these things to understand what the implications of a double black hole might be. It is, as they say, it is the nearest quasar to Earth, but we're still talking 600 million light years away, so it's not really local. It's not like popping down to the chemists, really. It's a little bit of a trek. The thing is, space is big, really big. You just won't believe how mind-bogglingly big it is. It's all Hitchhiker's Day. I apologise for nothing, by the way. I have no apologies for talking hitchhikers all day, every day. So, get out! Ah! Bombs. Stupid bombs. Bombs everywhere. Bombs all day, every day. Heal up. And see if that one's bigger than the one I got. Yes, it is. I'll take you. Cool. I got some loots to grab. Yeah, I don't know the significance. It's one of those things that's like, huh, well, today I learned some stuff about a quasar, and hopefully maybe I was able to enlighten you guys about what quasars are and their background and things. Maybe. Go read the Wikipedia page. It's interesting. That's all I did, mostly. And looked up news articles on Hubble and quasars. They're out there. They're recent news, so they're not hard to find. Just searching Google News, it'll say, hey, here's a bunch of articles on Hubble. There are plenty of them. Yeah. The double black hole is... It seems to be an interesting mechanic. I guess the quasar as a region is bigger than your typical quasar, insofar as you've got one black hole at the center, and then another galaxy has collided with it at some point in the past, and now one black hole is kind of stationary and the other one kind of orbits around it, which makes kind of the disk of space around the black hole, and by extension the quasar, bigger. And this particular quasar, when you look at it closely, it's kind of got like this patch in the middle which emits less radiation because, well, you've got two black holes there going around each other, so they're taking up more space where there's actually not so much coming out of it because it's all going into it. It's the area around it where all the material, hundreds, thousands of star masses, all being compressed into a tiny, tiny space, relatively tiny space, all getting compressed and heating up and emitting a lot of radiation. And eventually it falls into one or the other of the black holes, and eventually those black holes will merge, and eventually they will run out of energy, and eventually it will just kind of become a galaxy. Once they've consumed all the material, all the gas that is in the local vicinity of the quasar, they kind of stop being a quasar and they just be a black hole, I guess. I guess black holes again themselves sort of evaporate after a certain amount of time. It's again much longer time frame than even the quasars, but the quasars, once they've used up the material, they are just a black hole. They are the center of a galaxy. Blast Furnace, Mechanized Mile, I'm good with what I've got. So yeah, they just become a galaxy. It is, in many regards, I suppose it is a galaxy being born, and that actually kind of ties up with what was... That's like all the information anyone ever really gave me in the past ever on quasars, and it was like, no one ever elaborated on that. When we looked at like textbooks that were kind of vague back in the 90s and noughties, I suppose. Probably less the 90s as much as the noughties, if you want to call them the noughties. I don't like that expression, but you know what I mean. Yeah, there was like, oh, it is speculated to be the birth of a galaxy, and it's like, go on? But it doesn't. They never went on. They were like, okay, how is a quasar the birth of a galaxy? Please to explain. I don't get what you're saying. How does this work? Mechanically speaking, in terms of sort of astrophysics and mechanics and things, what's going down here? How is this galaxy being born? I'm dying to know, but you're not being forthcoming with information. I guess this kind of makes sense now. You kind of got the galaxy at the center. That, hey, Spark of Life, sweet. That makes up for me dying last week, maybe. Not that I spent a Spark of Life, but I did die. Which route's which? This route is... I fancy this route. Let's do this one. Yeah, it's... Yeah, you got the galaxy, you got the black holes will draw in a lot of material into the center of the galaxy. and or into a big disk, which will eventually form the center of the galaxy. You've got a lot of material in a small space, which kind of is a good place for a lot of star creation. A lot of stars will be born in that territory because a lot of material, a lot of gas is being compressed, and that's you want stars. That's how you get stars. You take a lot of hydrogen gas in space and compress it into a small space until it undergoes nuclear fusion, and a star is born. And that's kind of what quasars are doing, so they're pretty good for making stars and ultimately forming galaxies, I guess, by extension. As I can't remember if it was the... I can't remember if I'm remembering the article about Markarian or if I'm remembering the Wikipedia article about quasars in general. I do seem to recall one of the two mentioned that either this quasar or at least some quasars that are out there have new star creation rates like 100 times greater than the Milky Way. I.e., for every star that is born in the Milky Way, some of these galaxies with a quasar at the center, they create new stars 100 times faster. For every one star that's born in the Milky Way, 100 are created in this other galaxy, which is kind of crazy. And again, like I say, it's like, oh, that sort of explains how a galaxy might kind of come to be in the first instance, which is, in and of itself, kind of intriguing. How do I feel about them? Informed and enlightened, I suppose, is kind of not a bad one. Is this not a... Is this just a hang around the campfire? It's not a warm your hands and get your health back kind of campfire, is it? It's just to talk to the guys. Well, you have your crystal samples. I'm sorry, but I'm stealing some. I've seen those guys before. This is not an exciting new scenario room. That's quite a common scenario room, to be fair. So yeah, let's I suppose do a couple of other questions. Got a couple of other bits and pieces. Wyvernall says, do you have any tips for leveling up a Seraphynx? Yes, feed it things. Feed it lots of things. Feed it all the things until it stops eating. When it stops eating, it is done. That's basically what I did. That's basically all you can do. Just feed it things. Your options are either grind things to feed to it, or throw money at it at the auction house until you can level it up. I'm not the expert on this. It took me like 6 months to level up my Seraphynx. There are people who did it in weeks, if not days. I believe those people were dedicated and very silly and probably also very rich. I was one of those things. I took it slow and steady and fed it what I could, when I could remember to do it, and when I was actually bothering to play the game. It took me somewhere between 6 and 8 months to actually level a pet up to that. I have probably had the Masquerade pumpkin thing probably just as long again since then. God knows when I acquired that, and that is still sort of loitering around level 40-ish. I'm not good at leveling up pets quickly. I'm not the one to be asking. I believe so. A general strategy I have kind of gone with in the past and is generally reasonably solid is to feed it. 5-star materials are by far the best, but I've heard people say, oh, don't bother with 5-star materials. It's just kind of a way. Certainly later on it becomes just a waste of 5-star materials. They just chew through so many of them. You just can't. You can't give them enough 5-star materials, and you just end up out of 5-star materials pretty quickly. I've kind of always gone with feeding them 4-star materials, just insofar as there are a number of 4-star materials, sorry, I'm confusing numbers. There are a number of 4-star materials in the game which are abundant enough that I never particularly seem to run out of them. Why would I go do that? Why would I do that? I've never seemed to run out of those materials, mostly kind of a lot of the undead stuff. Undead and construct stuff I seem to have quite a lot of, actually. Heavy gears, I definitely have a lot of. Ghost bells. I don't know, at one point in the game I could never seem to get a hold of any ghost bells. Now it's one of my most abundant 4-star materials. And it's like, no matter how many I feed them to the pet, I seem to get them back sooner or later anyway. So it's kind of no big deal. I just feed my stuff 4-star until it's ready to level up, and then feed it the relevant materials. And if I don't have enough stuff to craft the relevant materials, I'll buy one off the auction house, because a lot of people sell them for far less than they're actually worth. There's the Clockworks Traveller, the blog written by the guy who made Spiel. If you don't read that, you should kind of check that every so often, because he actually writes some interesting stuff about some theory crafting stuff in the game, just the nature of the game, some design stuff, sort of thing that I've talked about and complained about in the past, but he articulates it on paper where I rant about it on video. It's worth a look, and he did complain recently about about people selling materials for far less than they're worth, quite frankly. Insofar as, well, you shouldn't. It kind of just ruins it for everybody. As do many things, like giving money to beggars. There's also got an article on giving money to the beggars ruins the game for everybody. So don't do that either, apparently. Yeah. I think the idea with the food is, yeah, the stuff that goes into making the food is worth, in and of itself, more than what people tend to sell the food for. So people should really just be selling that food for, you know, at least the cost of the materials, because it'd be worth more, and everybody's undercutting each other, and you end up with, well, everybody selling stuff for not much, not making much money, and it kind of hurts the market, really. But I guess if you're trying to level up a pet, it's good for you. So yeah, go out there and buy stars and feed it stars. And I think once you get past about level 75-ish, yeah, just feed it stars pretty much only. I'm wondering whether to call it here is why I'm sort of loitering around here. I've been talking for half an hour, and I really don't have many questions. I got another Spiral Knights one, but guess I'll hang fire on that till next week, actually. I'm going to leave this here at half an hour now. So yes, don't forget, leave me your questions, the most interesting ones, the most non-Spiral Knightsy questions. The best question, in my personal opinion, before Sunday, when I record the next episode of Spiral Spiel, will win a copy of Rose, and I will mail that to you through the YouTubes. And don't forget to check in back next week on the videos as well, because you'll need to watch that to find out if you've won, right? Yeah, you need to check that. So yeah, come back and watch more of my stuff. That'd be good. So for now, thank you very much for watching. I have been Meroka. This has been Spiral Spiel, and I will see you next time.